Charlotte.
Welcome and good evening. Boy, this is a much anticipated event, probably the most of the whole circuit of NASCAR driving. We are here tonight for one hot night. It's the Winston live on TNN. With me tonight, country music star and, of course, racing enthusiast, T.G. Shepard.
Katie, it's good to be here on such an historic night. Matter of fact, the first night ever under the lights here at Charlotte. Not only a $1.7 million lighting system at this 1.5 track, but we have a little help from the natural light tonight, a full moon, so which means anything can happen.
Anything can happen tonight. We have the full moon. We got a fantastic fireworks display for you tonight, plus many, many big surprises. Now, TG and I, we thought we'd give our TNN viewers a feel of what it would be like to be at such an awesome thing as tonight, a big race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So what we're going to do, we're going to roam around the grandstands, take a look at the Speedway Club, see what we can do, and just give you the feel of what it would like to be here.
And if you aren't a race fan yet, in the next 4 hours, I promise you, at the end of that time, you will be a fan. So we welcome all of you at home with us here, all of you at Charlotte. It's going to be a great night of racing.
Yes, indeed. And, of course, we have some racing experts to give you all the action tonight, play-by-play. They are the best. Neil Bonnet and Mike Joy.
Thank you, Katie, and hello, everybody. We're seated on the roof high atop the showplace of this sport, Charlotte Motor Speedway, where nearly 150,000 people are streaming in here for an historic first. We expect tonight the largest single-day nighttime sporting event crowd in the world ever. And Neil Bonnet, they're set to see quite a show.
Mike, I tell you what, I'm glad we've got these seats right here because there's none available anywhere. It's not only going to be one hot night, this was one hot ticket to get. When they announced this race was going to be run at nighttime, the fans went crazy. The drivers might have been skeptical about lighting this racetrack. Once they got on it, it was unbelievable how good a shape the track's in. It's going to be a great race, and I can't wait for it to get started.
And they are packed in here early on in the evening. Let's give you a look at what we'll see tonight. Last night they qualified for the running of the Winston. Here's how Ricky Rudd's car looked to the spectators as it went through the seamless lighting system developed by Musco of Iowa. And what do the drivers see? Here's pictures from the roof cam on Jeff Bodine's Bud Moore Ford. And you see the lighting is very even all the way around the racetrack.
Mike, I'm not so sure it's not better than daytime. In the daytime, going in the first turn, you have to deal with the sunshine. The lighting is very consistent right now. The drivers are tickled to death with it.
We've got 3 big events for you this evening. The Winston 100 for NASCAR Sportsman, the Winston Open for Winston Cup competitors, and the Winston, NASCAR's All-Star Tilt. It's going to be a great night of racing as night falls and the racing heats up. Stay with us here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be right back here on TNN. Of NASCAR's All-Star Race, the Winston, is brought to you by Avalon Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste, so get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, the unanimous choice of every NASCAR Winston Cup team. And by Fram Oil Filters. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. The shadow's getting long over Charlotte Motor Speedway as one hot night gets underway. Usually Neil and I are joined topside here by Buddy Baker, and Buddy is with us tonight, but he's in a very special role. He'll be Stock Car Racing's first green flag in-car commentator during the running of the Winston Open a little later on. But first, Neil, NASCAR's new Igloo Sportsman Challenge Series. These are drivers that come off the Winston Racing Series short tracks and aspire to a career on the super speedways. And in this event tonight, our prelim, they'll get some valuable super speedway experience and exposure.
Mike, this is a perfect opportunity for these guys that run short tracks all over the country, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Most of these guys are winners at home at their local tracks. Now they can showcase their talent on a great big racetrack like this. It's a perfect opportunity for them to get in front of a big crowd and show people what they can do.
Most of these cars are former Winston Cup or Busch Grand National Series cars. You see, they weigh the same, the wheelbase are similar, and so are the engine size. But they have about half the horsepower due to their 2-barrel carburetors, and they run around here about 25 miles per hour slower.
Well, 25 miles an hour is slow, but not compared to what these guys are used to. Here's some racing last night. They've got their hands full.
These 5 cars were running for the lead in the last chance qualifying race, and as you can see here, things came a little undone. And of these 5 drivers, 3 failed to make the field. However, there are 30 starting ahead of them that qualified in time trials. Let's meet the man on the pole down to pit road, and here's Glenn Jarrett.
Well, thanks, Mike. And Robbie Faggart has put his Chevrolet Monte Carlo on the pole. He's no stranger to this position. He's won 2 poles in the past. He is also a two-time winner in this series here at Charlotte. Robbie, looking for number 3 tonight. Can you do it?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we can do it tonight. Like you said, this is the third time we've been on the pole here. We'd love to back this pole up with another win. If there's any way possible, I'd like to thank our owners, Gigi and D. Buzzy, for the opportunity to drive this 5-star racing team Chevrolet.
Who do you look for to be your strongest competition tonight?
Well, my competition's always sitting beside of me. I know, well, Tim Bender, he's no stranger to victory lane here. He's won a couple times. We just like to, between he and I, get out front and battle it out a little bit later on.
Okay, thanks a lot, and good luck to you tonight, Robbie. Now, let's meet the newest member of our motorsports team. A little further down pit road is Randy Pemberton.
Thank you very much, Glenn. I'm back here on row 5 in the very familiar Goodwrench Chevrolet, the black colors of Dale Earnhardt, only it's not Dale Earnhardt in this car. It's Kirk Shelmerdine. Kirk, first of all, what do you get out of racing in this Sportsman division? You're such a good wrench. Why do you get in one of these cars?
Well, it's a lot of fun, really, for me, and I found out after I started doing it that I think it helps me sympathize a little bit with Dale's situation. We know from another point of view how things go and, what he has to put up with a little bit. And the more you know about your business, whatever it is, I think it's beneficial.
Well, one thing's for sure, Kirk Shelmerdine has a lot of fun in this car. And now Katie Haas, I think, is somewhere up in the grandstands, hopefully having a little fun with the fans. Katie?
Randy, I'm right here behind the flag stand, and this is one great spot to be for one hot night here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We have with us a couple, Pam and Ronnie from Winston-Salem. Now, you guys are married, right?
Yeah.
But do you cheer for the same man?
No.
Uh-oh. Who do you cheer for, Pam?
Rusty Wallace.
Uh-oh. Ronnie, you?
And Dale Earnhardt.
Now, wait a minute. Do you guys have little spats about this? You stay together?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Well, it doesn't matter. I think that these guys are happy anyway because you got a little conflict and that can keep you together, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
This is a lot of fun. It's a great seat, and these guys are really partying back here and getting ready for the race. Let's go see what Mike Joy's doing.
I don't know, Katie. I'll bet they have some long, quiet rides home after some of these races. They have fired the engines for the Winston 100 for NASCAR Sportsman cars. We'll be back to bring you all the action as one hot night continues after this. Souvenir. They are packed in at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The grandstand is packed. Look at the infield is full. And the Igloo Sportsman Challenge division is ready to roll here in the Winston 100. Let's look at the starting lineup. You've met Robbie Faggart, who starts on the pole. He's driving a Chevrolet. World Snowmobile champion Tim Bender is on the outside pole. He's in a Chevy as well. One of our in-car cameras rolls with Dennis Setzer out of Newton, North Carolina. That's T.W. Taylor. And Mark Cox has our other in-car camera starting from 5th position. Peter Gibbons next to him from Canada. A couple of Statesville drivers fill the 4th row there. And there's Kirk Shelmerdine in row 5 with Bertie Query. Looking back, most of these drivers are from the Carolinas. Grew up, studied on the short tracks here. You also from Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia. Each one of these aspires to a Winston Cup driving career. Neil Bonnet is a former short track racer in Birmingham. Before you got the big break, you've got to know what these fellas feel like.
Mike, I tell you, they got a lot on the line right here. People say, well, boy, it sure is tough for a guy to come to a big racetrack like this and race, but it's kind of like going to war. You can train them, and you finally got to turn them loose and put them out here in the heat of battle, and the guys really do well. It's a tough racetrack, and they've got to learn what they're doing in a hurry.
They've run 5 events at this distance here. Robert Huffman, Dennis Setzer, Kirk Shelmerdine, and Lee Tissot have started all 5. Huffman, who is not in tonight's event, leads all drivers with 3 wins. Former pole winners include Huffman, Cox, Scott Jackman, Dennis Setzer, and T.W. Taylor. That is Dennis Setzer, hard-driving young fella out of Hickory, North Carolina, and he's had some success in this division. He's the defending champion of the Duron Paints, or defending pole sitter, the Duron Paints car. And here's Mark Cox coming up. There's a look from his Bojangles car. Mark has also had a lot of success on this series, which is fairly new. It runs here at Charlotte. It's going to run some races up at Pocono International Raceway this year, and some short track events as well.
Mike, one of the keys to watch for in this division for the fans is these little 2-barrel carburetors. They got to keep them wound up. They got to stay in the gas all the time. Get them slowed down. It's hard to get them going again.
Pace car is in. Robbie Faggart of Concord brings them down for the start, and we're under green for 67 laps, 100 miles. Faggart on the brake, and Setzer moving up. That's the red and white board, and an engine has grenaded going off into turn number 1. We hold under green. A lot of mosquito repellent going down at turn 1.
He pulled off the track, Mike, down in turn 1. It might not be a problem. They'll have to evaluate when the cars come back around if there's anything anything on the track or not.
That may be Sherry Minner in car number 61, the only female driver in the field out of Charlotte. There's Setzer in number 4 making a bid as they come around, and it looks like we'll stay green. No caution as Minner drops her car down to the track apron. And a tough outing here at Charlotte for the young lady. Front 4 have scattered pretty much single file as Setzer works the bottom side by side. To the back straightaway again.
Mike, these cars run like the old Winston Cup cars used to do. The key here is drafting. In some of the Winston Cup races nowadays, the draft is not as critical, but with these particular cars, you'll see a lot of cars pulling by at the end of the straightaway, just as we see this passing going on here.
You'll note the back ends of these cars. Now, current Winston Cup cars, the back ends of taillight areas are rounded to help improve the airflow behind the car. But these older Monte Carlo and LeSabre bodies are squared off at the back. So these cars seem to be real easy to draft off of.
Mike, if people, the fans would think back 3 or 4 years ago how close the drafting was, how critical that was in racing, these are the very cars that were such good in competition that were so closely matched. These guys have got cars that really feel good under them, and they get feeling pretty cocky at times.
And as we said, those big cars with their squared off back ends are real easy to draft off of. And here, drafting up on Martin Cox. Moving well as they cross the start-finish line and complete 3 laps.
Boy, that's a shot. You look there and you see the people in the grandstand. I promise you, this is the biggest crowd this bunch has ever raced in front of. And all week long, they've been striving to get the car ready for this one night.
Pit stop for Dave Jones as Sherry Minner's car is put back behind the wall with engine trouble. Up at the banking of turn 3. You see the lights are on there at the top of the screen. And a little loose there, right behind Mark Cox. Driver hauls it back in.
Looked like he might have been smoking that right front tire. He's really cranking on the steering wheel, and there's a lot of smoke blowing off the right front tire. But that will not be a problem. With these Sportsman cars, they get them to use an older, harder compound tire. They got a hard enough tire where it won't even enter into the picture of having a tire problem.
Cox trailing T.W. Taylor as we watch the front 4. Robbie Faggart, the pole sitter, has led each of the 4 laps completed so far. Incident-free in the first 4 of 67 laps here tonight.
I tell you what, this type of racing right here, every time we've seen one of these races, it takes about 8 or 10 laps for them to get sorted out, and then we've seen them just racing in a covey, about 6 or 7 cars at a time. Won't take long, they'll get it grouped up and they'll be able to race like that.
The car we saw from the in-car smoking his tires was T.W. Taylor, and he has brought his car to pit road. Now, second place runner right now is Tim Bender. He's the World Snowmobile Championship in several classes. He's won it. He's a Yamaha factory racer. I thought my eyes were deceiving me when I saw his truck roll in. It said Yamaha Snowmobile Racing Team. I thought I was about 50 degrees and 2 months away from where I needed to be.
I got a feeling they left their coats at home when they rolled into Charlotte.
Let's hope so. He's won the Wisconsin 150 here at Charlotte and runs in that white orange numeral 76 car, running in second spot.
Mike, when we talked to the pole setter before the race, you heard him say, me and this guy on the outside, the guy got a race, we're going to try to get away, almost like it was a game plan. They try to work away from the field, and they seem pretty content to run straight in line right now and get away from the field.
Baggart and Bender, the front 2. Peter Gibbons is running in 3rd. Gibbons has come up from 6th starting spot. He's the Canadian driver in the field from Stouffville, Ontario. And with them is Mark Cox from Yadkinville, North Carolina. In the yellow car, Mark got his start in this business driving cars, but not like this. He drove the Winston show car on and off its trailer for appearances at shopping malls. Worked his way up through the R.J. Reynolds administration system and then said, no, I want to go racing. The bug has bit me. Trouble in turn 4. One car has spun down to the bottom of the racetrack and slides back up. That's Steve Allison out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. No incident. He did not contact the wall, but yellow has come out here at lap 8. Allison was added to the field as an alternate starter when Terry Brooks withdrew his car after qualifying in the 32nd position. So first yellow at lap 8 for Steve Allison's spin in turn 4.
Mike, while he's sitting on pit road, there's a good example. Look at the lighting hanging over that racetrack for later on.
So we're under yellow for the first time tonight. Coming up, the Winston Open and NASCAR's all-star event, the Winston. Stay with us for one hot night on CNN. Winston 100. part of the Igloo Sportsman Challenge Series of NASCAR. And we're one lap away from going back to green. Robbie Faggart is the race leader and pole sitter, a two-time winner of the Sportsman Division here in Charlotte. We're riding along here. One of our in-car cameras, I believe that's Dennis Setzer. There he is. Dennis Setzer from the Mark Cox car. They're running nose to tail.
And Mike, there's the condos where all the Winston Cup guys are sitting right now getting ready. Their cars are going through the line, getting ready to go, and they're resting up for the race coming up.
Let's go down to the grandstand. Katie Haas.
Boy, I'm telling you what, there's so many people here. We're having a great time. And Grandma Morris back here last Christmas bought her kids tickets to the Winston, and they're all here. What's your names?
William. I'm 9 years old. I'm Brian. I'm 7 years old. I'm Kevin. I'm 6 years old.
He's 6. Well, kids, tell me, what kind of night are you going to have out here at Charlotte Motor Speedway?
One hot night!
They're good.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I'm older. We're getting ready to go back to green. Robbie Faggart going for his 3rd win here at Charlotte. He won in 1990 and 91. Started on the pole. Has led every one of the 11 laps so far. Brief caution flag for a single car spin. And we're back under green.
Now, Mike, this looks more like it. This group of cars usually go 3 and 4 abreast, don't ever restart in a race like that. They'll get it sorted out here in a minute.
You're watching for the back bumper of Mark Cox's car at Dennis Setzer from Newton, North Carolina. That's Ned Jarrett country.
Who says these guys don't know how to super speedway? They've seen this on TV before. You're supposed to stick your bumper in the camera. This guy's got it figured out pretty well.
Setzer has won here before. He is quite a talent, and a name I think you'll hear more of.
Car moving around a little bit in the middle of the corner with him.
And back they come. Battle at ninth spot. That familiar looking number 3 has Earnhardt's race day crew chief Kurt Shelmerdine aboard.
Has Earnhardt on the radio flying remote control, so we better stand back.
William Hopgood is in the 16 car running Shelmerdine side by side.
Good racing.
Kurt competed in one Winston Cup event back to Texas World Speedway in 1981. And he won last year's Sportsman event here in October.
Mike, he told Dale it felt like once he started driving this race car, it let him relate more what Dale felt in the car. Hey, the sway bar does this, a shock does that, or a spring in a certain area. So he feels like this is a good training area for him to drive that car and be able to relate to his driver better.
Boy, I agree, Neil, 100%. But a trouble in 4. One car is spun again. Single car spin. 4 cars take avoidance, and everybody gets by. Bring out the second caution of tonight's event. That's car 02. That'll be Fred Yelenick out of Beaufort, South Carolina. The Smith's Paint and Body Shop Chevrolet. Won't have to go back there, at least not as a result of this spin.
Yeah, thank goodness he didn't need a little body work. When you spin it up in 4, if you can drive it away in one piece, it's a pretty good accomplishment. And he spun and didn't get into anything.
Caution at lap 13. Talking about Shelmerdine, I promise you, you get a guy in a race car, it's almost impossible to get him back out.
Yeah, I'm not so sure Richard Childers or Dale thinks that's the best thing for their guy to be doing on a night that they've got to race after this following event. But it also is an asset to their whole race team for him to do that.
Neil, what happens to cause this usually?
When a guy spins like this,
yeah.
These cars here, like I said earlier, they have a little bit harder tire than you would normally run at Charlotte. It's an old obsolete tire purposely for these teams to where they don't have to buy several sets of tires. It's a little bit harder, and in turn, it's harder to hook up the racetrack.
So we're under the second caution. It'll be a brief one. While we're under yellow and the sun gets a little lower in the sky, let's take this time out from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Talk about having gotten bit by the racing bug. That's one reason T.G. Shepard's here with us tonight. Is he got bit a long time ago, and I wondered when you were involved there with that Folgers team. Did you ever hop in the car?
I took my first few laps many years ago in Darrell Waltrip's car, and I blew the engine in Nashville Motor Speedway.
Did you have to buy him one?
No, what happened was
Good.
I was going too slow, and the car overheated and blew up. I was at about 40. No, I love the sport. Have for many years.
Okay, let's have another look here at what happened up in turn number 4 as we are going to get set to go back to green.
Boy, they did a good job here, Mike. He spun the car. He's trying to hold it down the bottom. Boy, just barely missed the other car. But the key is to keep the brakes on. The banking will wipe him back down off there. He slides off the racetrack.
We're back under green. Good bit of jostling toward the back of the pack as the leaders haul them off down into turn number 1. Car number 99, Lee Tisson, who's got a lot of experience here, got scraped up against the wall there. Setzer and Cox side by side there. The Ford and the Chevrolet are 2 in-car cameras. And right behind them, Ronnie Sewell out of Shelby, battling hard.
Mike, here's what these older type cars do. Watch the draft push the guy. We've seen it so much lately with the new cars. The draft's not effective. He got out there, another guy got behind him, they drive right on by. The draft really works at this racetrack for these type cars.
Mark Cox had to drop back in line. You're watching pictures from his car squeezing right in there comes Sewell.
Looked like it almost fit.
It didn't look like it would for a minute. Going right back to the bottom, the yellow car is Mark Cox. He's running in 6th position. Dennis Setzer in the number 4 Ford is in 4th place. And right between them, that's the 31 car, Ronnie Sewell, the OnSat Carolina Paint Chevrolet.
Looked like the 31 car, the driver sitting there kind of giving him a motion sign to the car behind him. Let's go to work. They were trying to work together and get back around the guy, but it's hard to do it if that guy uses up a lot of racetrack, and it's not going to be as easy as they think to get back around.
Well, the reason why, they're looking at the 3 leaders scooting away. Look at the gap that's opened up to 4th place, the Ford of Setzer.
Setzer's car shown a lot of strength all week long. He's got the ability to pull these 2 cars back up with the leaders if they'll stay in line. What he needs, Mike, is just a little more help from the 31 car to really tighten the pack up, and then they can roll.
Let's check on pit road. Glenn Jarrett.
Well, guys, one of the problems that the 4 car of Dennis Setzer is having, I checked with the crew chief, and he's got a real bad push developed in the car. It just won't go through the corners like they want to. He can't turn the car down on the racetrack, so you can see him just slipping away further and further. They need to get in and make a chassis adjustment on that car. Also, the 61 car, we saw the big smoke from them the first lap. It did not blow. They changed the oil in the car this afternoon. They simply overfilled the oil tank and blew the excess oil out.
Top 7 cars in this event separated by only about a second and a half. We're watching the 4th place car, Dennis Setzer. And right behind him, the 31 of Ronnie Sewell and the 74 of Mark Cox.
Mike, as Glenn was talking about, here's the cars getting 3 abreast off turn 4 as we was fixing to talk about. This is the type racing we usually see. Here's one through the grass, and you saw what happened when he got it in the grass.
He hung on to it. Freddie Query of Kannapolis.
That's when you need Toro as a sponsor, when you get her in the grass down there, and he was slipping and sliding. He did a good job of straightening it out.
Must have watched the Kannapolis driver who's been down there before on this night.
Yeah, I think he saw Elliott Earnhardt do that a few years back.
Cox battling side by side with Ronnie Sewell. And of course, this is allowing the leaders up front to get away. Last lap, 153 and a half. These cars show some speed. And here's Shelmerdine coming up. He's going to be part of that pack. What's Dale Earnhardt telling him right now?
I don't know. You know, Kirk's a pretty savvy driver himself. He's kind of modest about what's happening. He says he's trying to learn this, trying to learn that. But in every one of these races, he's ran very well in all of them. And you saw him move to the outside and make the pass. The key, as we talked about earlier, is keep these little 2-barrel carburetors wound up. Kirk's no dummy when it comes to this type of racing.
Well, let's see if this pack can catch the leaders with Sewell leading them. Driver out of Shelby, North Carolina, the Kenwall racing car. They pass by Steve Allison down on the bottom of the racetrack.
See, right through this area, see Kirk move to the outside as they come through the tri-oval. If you can move out there, you actually pinch the inside car down and kind of bind him up in the corner. He didn't. That pass was set up in the middle of the back straight on the front straightaway, and he was able to pass him in coming off the second turn because of the momentum he had built up. Kirk's really used his head right now.
But now while these 4 Chevys battle, the Ford of Dennis Setzer has caught the 3 leaders and run off from this group. There's the front pack. Robbie Faggart up front, Tim Bender in second. There's Peter Gibbons in third, and there's Setzer top of your screen. We've got our viewer phone in operating tonight. It's a toll-free call if you have questions about the Winston, about your favorite driver, about the Sportsman division, or anything about tonight's event. You can call in toll-free. We'll try to get as many questions on the air and get answers for you as we can tonight.
Mike, when we just before we started talking, before they got 3 abreast a while ago, when Glenn said that Setzer had a push problem, that's the kind of problem you want. You don't want to lose condition because it gets worse. A pushing problem increases to your favor. It gets better and better. The push goes away. The push goes away. You hear a lot of race car drivers say the track came to me. Well, it's going to be coming to him, and you see him closing in on leaders. If you got a problem, that's the type you want. He's able to close in on right now.
Those leaders are bunching. 3 Chevrolets and a Ford. Back behind them, that torrid battle for 5th spot continues to rage. Lee Tissett at the front of the pack, or rather Robbie Faggart at the front of the pack, driving 89, the 5th leading all-time money winner in this division. It's only a couple of years old. He's taken $10,000 out of this place. And back behind that lead pack, a lot of intramural racing going on among the 4 Chevys.
75 cars really, really loose. I tell you what, now, this is the same car that got exceptionally loose a while ago. He's got he needs to get that car tightened up. I mean, you can do that 1 or 2 times. You can correct that car, but sooner or later, that thing's going to get out from under at these speeds.
Freddie Query from Kannapolis, North Carolina, is driving 75. Now, Mark Cox running right behind him in the yellow car there. If in the middle of the corner he gets down low on the racetrack, takes some of the air off Freddie, is that going to help exaggerate that loose condition? Exactly.
Right now, where that car's at behind him, he should have his tremendous loose condition. The car, you'll see him chase the rear up. He's not going high because he wants to. If that 74 car pulls in behind him, it'll actually lift the rear wheels off the ground. He's got a very big problem he needs to correct.
And of course, Mark Cox, seeing that car ahead of him being loose, knows that, and he's going to take advantage of it if he can.
And he says, let me stick the nose up under this guy. He'll get loose and I can pass him.
Mike Joy alongside Neil Bonnet. Buddy Baker will be with us, beginning with the Winston Open, commentating from in the car as he races and tries to transfer into the Winston All-Star race tonight. Lots of action coming up here at Charlotte Motor Speedway on one hot night. We're watching the second pack from 5th place on, and guess who that is? Richard Childress, who owns the car that Kirk Shelmerdine spends his weekdays working on. Dale Earnhardt drives.
We were wondering what Earnhardt was saying. What do you think Childress is saying here? That's the man that turns the wrenches on that car. He's wanting to get out of there in one piece, get this other number 3 running.
That's it. Richard and Dale don't seem to talk much on the radio, and it's kind of silent in that pit when things are going well. That's good. You don't hear anything on their radio. That's a good sign for them. That pack has been split up a good bit by lapped cars now, and you see them start to string out just a bit.
Mike, if everybody wonders, we're sitting there talking about the Winston coming up later, and you say, well, there's Childress on top of the truck. As I look out through the infield here, all of the Winston Cup cars are lined up. They got car covers over them. They're ready to go racing. They're just waiting for their chance to go, and Childress is kind of enjoying this.
They're waiting for the sun to go down and the moon to come up. Trouble on the 31 car coming to pit road. Tough break for Ronnie Sewell. He was running in the 5th position when he came to trouble looking for his pit space. And the crew's coming over the wall with tires for him. They'll put right sides on it. Let's go back up front. Coming around to complete lap 29. The front 4.
You need to steal
by Robbie Faggart, the pole sitter. Tim Bender, Peter Gibbons, and Dennis Setzer up in that front 4 pack. Kirk Shelmerdine, meanwhile, has moved to 5th place. Was having quite an outing here. But this pack right here, now, Tim Bender has not made a challenge on Faggart all night. It's as if he is hoping that those 2 cars can break away, but it's not easy.
No, Mike, but you could almost sense that on the top of the shelf when he said that they were going to try to work together and see if they could get away. I'm not so sure they're content to run in line and at the end of the race try to settle it between themselves, but these other guys are closing in on them.
There's your 1-2 battle. And back behind this front 4, Shelmerdine and Freddie Query have really been battling. Coming out of turn number 4, Query's been underneath Shelmerdine every lap.
I'll tell you what, that 75 car, that guy's been doing one heck of a job driving this thing. Watch him get down in the corner. Every time he's made this move before, the back end's been breaking loose on him. Here it comes again. See the rear brake out, and it broke out to the left, and he whipped down below the line. The car is so loose he can't hardly hold it on the inside. He's got his hands full right now.
But he's coming. Freddie Query in 75, former dirt track champion of Metrolina Speedway near here. He's using those dirt tracking skills tonight.
What happens with a car like this, Mike, when it's in that loose condition, it's real responsive, you know yourself, to the throttle. It's not bound up. The thing will jump around, it'll run, it'll accelerate, flies through the corner real fast, but it also will get out from under you if you're not careful. He's doing a good job of holding the car.
Shelmerdine and Query racing now for 5th place. Robbie Faggart's led every lap. Tim Bender's been right on his tail. Peter Gibbons, Dennis Setzer's worked his way up to 4th. Then Shelmerdine and Query. Mark Cox is 7th. Tim Hepler and Marty Ward are the top 9. Skip Pope is the 10th place car. There's Setzer trying to move up on Gibbons.
Looks like it's coming to him a little bit, Mike. You know, the car seems to be getting better as he goes along.
32 of 67 laps complete. This predominantly Chevrolet field has one Ford playing the spoiler right here out of turn 4.
This is just the opposite of what the 75 has experienced. He's real tight. You saw him turn the car down the inside. The car ran a good straight line. When that car is in that condition, he should be able to drive right on under him on the inside without the back end trying to get out front. There he goes. The car feels good to him, but that momentum on the outside. The 4 car is not moving around as much as the 75. He's a lot tighter. It's a lot easier to drive like that, but he still couldn't make the pass.
33 laps complete. This battle for third. Peter Gibbons and Dennis Setzer. Up front, it's Robbie Faggart and Tim Bender. Let's go to pit lane. Randy Pemberton.
Well, actually, guys, I'm back here in the Winston Cup garage area. We're just shy of 2 hours away from the Winston. This is a Havoline Star 4 Thunderbird that Davey Allison will be driving in the Winston. It doesn't look very ready. No tires on, lug nuts hanging around. Look at what these guys go through to get this car ready. There's 3 sheets of paper with at least 100 checklist items on there to make sure this car is ready to go out there. And maybe that's one of the reasons that Davey Allison won the pole, and he's the favorite to win the Winston.
We are halfway in the Winston 100 for Sportsman cars. We'll be right back. TNN Motorsports exclusive live coverage of the Winston is being brought to you by Napa, because there are no unimportant parts. We're under caution for the 3rd time tonight. Up against the wall, Tim Hepler out of Statesville, North Carolina, the Galaxy Food Centers Chevrolet. And here's how it happened.
Mike, we saw this happening going to first turn. There he is up in the middle, too. He just simply lost the car. The back end came around. He was behind about 4 cars. Here's the worst thing that could happen. The car goes sailing up the racetrack, and he's going to turn around and just get in the wall. Not all that hard, but here's the key. Keep the car on the wall. See him cranking the wheels back around to the right. No matter what happens, keep it up high, because if you'll watch, you're fixing to see a lot of traffic come under him here. The key is stay out of that oncoming traffic, and he did a good job of doing that. That's just an exhaust fire. There's some fumes coming out the pipe, but it's okay.
There's the driver walking down the racetrack. He is okay. And will be set to go back to green here in a matter of a couple of laps. This race is 100 miles, Glenn Jarrett, and have you checked along pit road? Will these drivers have to pit?
Not have to pit. Most of them don't anticipate that at all unless there's a problem with the car. A little bit of an update. We saw Dennis Setzer fall back and then come on as they ran more and more green flag laps. That's just what he wants. Just like Neil said, the car feels better and better to him, so he doesn't want to be under caution right now. The car gets tight when the tires are cool. I checked down in Tim Bender's pits to see if they were indeed just holding back, trying to save the car. Crew chief said, no, said, we're giving it all we got right now. We're just hanging on. So looks like Faggart's got him covered right now. He's not having any problems at all.
You see, it's starting to get a little dim here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. There's the sun just kind of peeking through, and I'm looking for the moon. Katie, have you found it?
Well, maybe not the moon just yet, but we have got a lot of fans out here. They're in some really fine seats up here. Can see every corner of the racetrack, so they're really pumped up. I found a man here. He's Mark from Kannapolis, North Carolina. And Mark, how many Winstons have you been to?
Everyone except Atlanta.
Is that right? Then you have some memorable moments from the Winston. Tell us about the most memorable one for you.
1987, when Earnhardt showed Elliott how it was done.
Did he, though?
He did.
That must be the year he did the little grass joke there.
Exactly right.
A lot of people call it the pass in the grass, but a lot of people also say that Elliott forced him down there. Which one do you think?
I think he forced him down there.
I had a feeling. Well, Mark, what do you think the outcome of this Winston will be?
Of course.
There's
Dale
your
Earnhardt.
answer. There's your answer.
One thing about race fans, they've all got a logo on their shirt and on their cap and on their cooler, and they've all got an opinion. That's why they're here. Although this division is expected to produce some great stars of NASCAR racing, it has also seen its tumult and its tragedy. Such was the case last night in the last chance qualifying race for this event. Number 60 is Gary Everett. He is battling William Metzger of Deer Park, New York for the lead. The car gets a bit loose on Everett and then comes around. Behind him, drivers take evasive action. In one of the strangest accidents we've ever witnessed, Neil Cannell gets up and into Gary Batson, whose car rides along the top of the wall. And fuel spilling from the cars ignited. Cannell was able to scramble out of his car and away to safety. Sadly, 40-year-old Gary Batson, the driver of car number 96, was badly burned, transported to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and succumbed to injuries from those burns this morning. Our sympathies are with his family and with the sport. That has cast a bit of a pall over the proceedings here this evening as we look forward to the running of the Winston Open and the Winston later tonight. This series, once it finishes here this week, they have 3 events here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then they move on to Pocono, Pennsylvania. There's the car that brought out this caution flag. Car number 93 being hauled in. That's Tim Hepler from Statesville. And let's see. Yes, we will look for green flag next time by. from the flag stand. 40 of 67 laps have been completed. And up front, it's Robbie Faggart, the pole sitter. Tim Bender from upstate New York, the snowmobile champ from Colden, New York. Runs in the second spot, Dennis Setzer from Newton, North Carolina. Third and fourth, Peter Gibbons out of Stouffville, Ontario, Canada, as we get set to go back to green next time. Let's have a look at how they're running in this Napa Field standing update as we get set to go back to green. Neil, do you run the second half of this race any differently than you do the first?
I don't think these guys have any choice. I think with these little carburetors and the competition they have, they're pretty well flat out all the time. They might have worked traffic together. They might have not diced it up as much, but I don't think they have much left. I think maybe when it gets right down the end, you'll see a little more competition of swapping the lead around, but I don't think they got much left. They were pretty well running flat out.
One thing that has changed is the third, fourth, and fifth place cars have now been brought up into line with the two leaders. And that'll make it more difficult for Faggart and Bender to break away. We're back under green, 41 of 67 laps completed. Coming up, the Winston Open and NASCAR's all-star event, the Winston. Challenge for the lead, down in one. Bender makes his move. Setzer comes up the high side. And now Setzer, is he hung out up there?
No, I tell you what, he got such a good run off the corner. There's a car just ricocheted off the wall coming off turn 2 over there. Getting shoved up in the loose stuff right where that accident was. Just barely kissed the wall.
Might have been Danny Sykes back there about 9th place.
Looks like Setzer made the pass, but here they come back on the inside of him.
Bender is stuck on the bottom. Tim Bender running low. He can't lean low on the side of that Chevrolet like he does off his Yamaha snowmobile. Former race winner here, now running third in the white car, down low. That's Gibbons up high in the blue car with him. Now Cox drops low, and Shelmerdine is there.
Kirk seems to really have his car working high on the racetrack. You see him really get a run off that corner. He really turns the car loose off the corner and makes a strong run.
Watching for Mark Cox's Chevrolet, the Bojangles car, at Kirk Shelmerdine, dipping low here in the quad oval of the front straightaway. Shelmerdine, in car 3, started 8 of these races, has 1 win and a runner-up finish. 3 other top 10s. Now Bender back in front of Setzer in the 4 car and Gibbons. And here's Shelmerdine scooting right past the bunch of them.
Mike, we were talking about this. I'm not so sure of the help that they don't have from Childress. You see a lot of these guys in a loose condition. We heard Setzer complaining about being tight. I promise you, they've made sure that 3 car was tight before the race started because they knew the race would come to him a little bit. So he's in a car that was very well set up before the race, and he's making a move.
Here's Cox on the inside. Now Shelmerdine is right next to him on his right. There's the 3 car. Gibbons is the blue car behind him. And then the 75 of Freddie Query. Good 4-car battle. Randy?
Well, I'm down here in the Kirk Shelmerdine's pits, and these guys are kind of laughing a little bit. Kirk came over the radio and said, well, it's a little loose when I get around other cars. Now, Dale Earnhardt, listening on the radio back in the garage here, he said, well, then drive off and leave him. So that's the philosophy from Dale Earnhardt.
Well, he can do it. And maybe Kirk can. He's got away from this pack just a bit as now Cox battles Gibbons side by side.
Maybe Childress has said that to Earnhardt a time or two, to drive off and leave him, and he's giving Kirk the same idea. But that's, I mean, you joke about it, but that's exactly what happens. If he can get away from him, his car is okay. When you get around another car, it takes air off your own car and it starts moving around a little bit. The key is once you clear him, drive on off, but that's not easy to do.
And the only way to describe that for folks, if you're driving on the highway and suddenly you pull in on a superhighway behind a tractor trailer, you got your window open, you feel all the wind buffeting. Well, that's what's going on with these cars, but at 3 times the speed. Back to the line, 46 of 67 laps. Robbie Faggart now has Dennis Setzer in the Ford trying to run him down.
And he might have the car that's capable of doing that. He's worked from about 5th or 6th position back and coming on up on him.
Here's Freddie Query in the white car. He's been running that car loose all night, and he's got it underneath Gibbons, and he's going for the spot. That battle is for 5th place.
Right here is where he should have a problem with a car on the outside of him. When a guy gets outside of you, he takes air off that rear spoiler. But he's going on. I'm telling you, the guy's doing a good job driving the car in that loose condition. 20
laps to go. And Shelmerdine makes his move for 3rd. Here's Mark Cox chasing Peter Gibbons. There's that battle up ahead, just ahead of the blue car of Gibbons. 2 cars up. They are side by side. You see it as Mark Cox sees it, as they go side by side for third. Here's one of the condominiums in turn 1 down at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and up on top of that is the Amigo Dome, where Felix Sabat, car owner, and Kyle Petty, his Winston Cup driver, are hanging out and watching the Winston 100. Trouble. Turn 4 at Shelmerdine. He and Tim Bender have crashed at turn 4, and 3 more cars crashed behind them, trying to take evasive action.
Mike, we just saw him running side by side. We were talking about a good packed group of cars, and he said his car was, giving him a little bit of problem in traffic. And we didn't see it come into the corner, but they were side by side coming off too, and then the problem was down in third turn.
Shelmerdine's able to drive away. Also involved, the 06 car of Steve Knight, car number 1, David Smith. And we're under caution again. 4th one of the night. We'll be right back. Has led every one of the 50 laps so far. Dennis Setzer has worked his Ford up into the 2nd spot. Freddie Query has dirt tracked his way to 3rd. Peter Gibbons is 4th, and Skip Pope now moves up to the 5th spot. After this 4th caution of the night, there's one of the cars involved in it, Kirk Shelmerdine, Dale Earnhardt's crew chief, and there's Tim Bender's car as well. Black flag for Shelmerdine for going a little fast down pit road, the speed limit in effect. And they're trying to get Bender's car in the garage area, but they won't make that left turn until Shelmerdine is able to pull away here. We'll have another look. We'll have a look here at what happened up in turn number 4 among this battle of cars that were working on 3rd position on back. Service work continues.
I don't know. They had a lot of... Here we go. This was the cars that were racing side by side. It looked like he got a 76 car, got a little shot from the rear from the 75, and in turning, they got into Kirk, and then they're going around. They probably got stacked up a little bit, 2 of them side by side, and the car behind came in and gave him just a little bit of a nudge, and Kirk got penalized for coming down pit road. I'm not sure he planned it.
No, at least not from that angle. Here's another look.
Yeah, this was after they had already made contact. One car sliding the inside. He really nails that inside wall. We see the front end flying off the car.
That's Bender. That's Tim Bender. I wonder just how much Kirk's car was upset, either upset by the air or was he actually struck?
It was hard to tell.
Let's have one different angle here. Already around. There's Bender going to the inside wall.
Looked like he's still mashing the gas trying to get down off that racetrack.
Right. And you'll see cars begin to spin up behind them as others take evasive action.
Yeah, that's a terrible feeling. The guys from behind are driving into, just like driving in the fog. They can't see what's in front of them, and you just kind of grit your teeth and drive in. Here's a car at the top of the shot, just out of control, stopping.
Well, there's a look at the top of the garage area. Down in the Winston Cup area. Drivers and cars getting ready, and that's where a lot of folks watch the race from, and folks are also up here, up on the roof of the condominiums down in turn 1 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Kyle Petty and Felix Sabates have been watching this race, and they're getting ready to run. Neil, this is a little different where you get to hang out up there in the high rent district before you get ready to race.
Yeah, these drivers used to sit around the back of a pickup truck, and Felix was a little upset about this program. The only thing he didn't like about the Amigo Dome, he wanted to put a helicopter pad up there, and they wouldn't let him. He didn't like walking over to the garage, so looks like Kyle's trying to fly somebody remote control there.
Well, Richie Petty's been involved in this division, had some good runs here at Charlotte. Morris Petty's son, that would be Kyle's cousin. There's the 17 car also involved, Junior Franks out of Skyland, North Carolina, the Franks Painting Chevrolet. Other cars, Glenn Darnell out of McDowell, Virginia was in that, and Scott Kilby from Statesville, North Carolina was also involved. Cleaning up this caution, we'll be back to green in a moment. Robbie Faggart continues to lead in the Winston 100 at Charlotte. As the Winston 100 for the Igloo Sportsman Challenge cars now has 13 laps to go as they take the green for the restart. Robbie Faggart up front, Dennis Setzer right behind, and Freddie Query diving to the inside down in turn number 1 in that white Chevrolet. Peter Gibbons, the blue car right behind. Those 4 cars get a little breakaway on the restart. Back straightaway. Boy, they shuffle right in the middle of that pack. The cars on the bottom are moving up just behind these leaders.
Mike, it looks like Setzer's car just gets better and better as the race goes up. You know, we were talking earlier, we thought it would come to him, and it sure looks like it has.
Car number 66 moving up right in the thick of things, Jerry Knowles. However, he's reported as being laps down after spending some time in the pits, but he sure played the spoiler in that second pack for a while. So now Setzer appears to be doing just what Tim Bender did in the early going, just kind of hanging tight right with the race leader and trying to get away. And you'll see here they're doing a little better job of it. There's the third place car, Freddie Query, a little further back, but gaining. That's Dennis Setzer.
Mike,
chasing the leader.
We just got a message. Tim Bender is okay in that accident. They just called us, said he's doing fine.
Good news. There's Freddie Query. He has caught Setzer and is going for the pass in the backstretch.
I tell you what, this car really, when you've got a car that's a little loose in the corner, it really makes a run through there. And he's able to really jump up on the guys off the corner. This right here is where, I mean, he's doing an excellent job. I can't emphasize that point enough. When you got a car that's that loose, when you drive under somebody, you got your hands full, and he's really been holding on to the car.
10 laps to go. But that battling for second spot has allowed Faggart to run off. 146 miles an hour last lap. The yellow car there is Mark Cox. The blue car, Peter Gibbons. Still looking for a piece of this.
Not only is it letting the leader run away, these other group is gaining on them too. They're catching them.
9 laps to go this time by. Good battle behind the 3 leaders, and we'll be back to rejoin it after these messages. And all the short track experience can't teach you one thing: what to do at super speedway speeds when things go wrong. This is a 6-car pileup on the back straightaway that started actually about 20 cars ahead of where it finally happened.
A couple of guys up front got together and almost wrecked, just barely avoided wrecking, and then they started stacking it behind them. As you can see right here, it was just a chain reaction. Boy, they tore up about 6 or 7 cars.
Curtis Miller is in it. Sherry Minter is in it. There's the start of it coming off turn number 2. 62 whacks the wall. That's Larry Caudle, former standout in the Dash Series. There's 16, William Hobgood, going around. And this could have been a fairly simple and easy 2-car crash.
But it's not over. They're still coming.
The cars are still streaming down the back straightaway at speed. Caudle comes to a halt.
Boy,
2 cars cannot avoid him.
Mike, that's what hurts in a race car, and that's one thing that really concerns you, is to be sitting still and take a shot like that. And there are 2 more cars sitting still, and another one piles in yet.
There are at least 6 cars involved. There again is the initial collision. And it involved William Hobgood, 60, and 62, Larry Caudle.
Sitting in the worst place you can be, right in the middle of the racetrack. When it gets stopped here, thank goodness the car backs on around a little bit, and there's a driver's door sitting right there. Hopefully the lick is to the in front of the wheel. Oh man, right in the door.
Sherry Minter piles in, and then here's another car coming in. One of those is the 99, Lee Tissett, out of Arden, North Carolina. And we'll have one more angle on.
Okay, here's a shot of Larry Caudle sitting still on the racetrack and really takes a shot in the door.
That's Lee Tissett, who runs into Caudle hard. And then there's Sherry Minter, young lady driver, coming in. 04 scooting past is Jabe Jones. I believe we'll get one more car in here before this is over. Yellow car.
Yep, here they come.
I think that's Curtis Miller, number 10.
Mike, even as we watch this, the start of this wreck happened a good bit before that. There was 3 cars that wrecked prior to that, and then this chain reaction happened.
And there's a look at the cleanup activities. We'll get a report from out on the scene there just as quickly as we can. And we were remarking as we went to break, T.G. Shepard, up here seems like a lot better place to be than down there.
I think it's a little safer and it's a little cooler up here. Of course, it's starting to cool off outside, but I wanted to come up. There's so much horsepower on the racetrack. I wanted to come up and visit with the manpower by calling the show up here in the booth.
Well, there's no food here and there's no pretty girls. So, but if you find some, come on back.
I think Kyle Petty is over there where all the food is.
We'll check with you in a bit. Now let's go down to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, guys, living proof that Tim Bender did indeed get out of that thing okay. He's standing right here. Tim, we're going to be showing what happened out there, but we're seeing it. You tell us what you felt.
Well, we were going through turn 3 and 4, and everything was fine. Kurt Shelmerdine and I were side by side, and the 75 car ran into the back of me and turned me sideways, and then I caught the right rear corner of Kirk and we both got taken out. Damaged the car pretty bad.
Looked like your car might have been a little tight, reason you couldn't make a better run at Robbie Faggart.
Yeah, we were getting tighter as the night warmed. As the sun went down and the air got cooler, we were getting tighter, and it was hard for me to keep up with Robbie. He's got a good running car, but we were hoping to have a good top 3 finish for the Habit Steel Chevrolet, but didn't work out that way.
Well, better luck next time. Guys, the one thing he asked me when he came over, he said, who is driving that 75 car? He just wanted to know. Now let's go back on pit road to Randy Pemberton.
Well, I'm standing by with Frank Rabin, the car owner of the car number 16, William Hopgood's car. First of all, William, we're taking a look at that wreck. What did he say?
Well, he said there was a few cars got into it, and he had to go to the high side of the wall. He got into the side of the wall, and the car flipped him, so we got a pretty much tore-up car right now.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's doing real good.
What does that do financially to a car owner when you have to come and tear up a race car like this?
Well, we're a low-key, low-operated, cheap budget type racing, and we come out to try to better ourselves in the racing, learn a little bit more about the racing, possibly one day get up a little bigger into the cup.
Okay, that's it from down here.
That last replay that we just saw was not the crash, Neil. That was the prelude to the crash, the prequel or whatever.
Mike, that's what we're talking about. That's what really caught our attention is we just saw the action on the track, and it was about 3 car lengths in front of the major wreck.
They were battling up toward the front of the pack when this was triggered, and it was the reaction of drivers behind that happened. They're coming out of the corner, and this is way up near the front of the pack.
This is about 3 or 4 cars in front of the wreck. Okay, the car bounced off the wall. They got together. Watch this 15 car. Believe it or not, he corrects this race car. He gets back in line, but the chain reaction started behind him. That initial movement caused the other people to lift behind him, and you can see behind it just turmoil. The car's going, and here's what's left, an instant junkyard.
Cars being hauled back to the garage area. We see 46 being dragged in, Bubba Urban out of Richmond, Virginia, as cleanup continues. 61 of 67 laps complete. The Winston Open, our in-car commentator, coming up next.
I guess you call the cheap seats up here in the grandstand, live from Charlotte Motor Speedway, actually in the aisle. And we were waiting for the exciting conclusion of the Sportsman race. Mike Joy has all the details of just went down.
Well, Katie, I'm trying to figure out which wrecker is leading at this point. They've got about 5 of them hauling these cars in after a tumultuous pileup on the back straightaway. Looks like about 7 cars being hauled in on the hook in one form or another, or flatbedded back to the Sportsman garage area. These drivers still have a couple of races here to run this week, and hopefully they'll have enough for full fields. A lot of work to do. For example, on that car, one of the standouts of last night's qualifying race, Curtis Miller. There's the remains of the 16 car, William Hopgood. We heard from his car owner a minute ago. There's the 99 of Lee Tissett, one of the more experienced drivers in this Sportsman field, being yanked in. Sherry Miller had engine problems at the start of the race and went back out, sadly with this result. And there are still 2 cars yet to be hauled in. One is on the wrecker. They're coming out of turn number 4. That's the 16 car of Hopgood. And Larry Caudle's car remains on the backstretch. They're hooking up to it now. There's remains of Caudle's car. Pace car is still bringing the field around here at fairly slow speed. Under normal conditions, or should this be the feature race, they would likely red flag this and restart it. Trying to stay on schedule. They're continuing to circulate under the yellow, and we've got 4 laps to go. Neil?
Mike, if there's any one good thing that you see about this was where the lick was right in the driver's door. Here we go. Here's the car up in the wall. There's Larry Caudle losing control. Got up against the wall. And then he comes back down. There's nothing he could do. He clipped that car, turned him right back out into the outside wall. And then behind him, the guys, there's nowhere to go. If you look right now, the track's plugged. And it's a deal where they start bouncing off of each other. There's a couple of cars out of the camera on the right side. They're in a little bit of a problem. They're all the way down on the apron. But the hard part is right here. Here he sits right in the middle of the racetrack, not even moving. But he's plugged the racetrack up, and here comes a car in that's going to really nail him right in the left side. But as we looked at the car going back on the wrecker, the thing that might be to his advantage was it hit in that left front wheel, not in the door. And that suspension area collapsed. It absorbed some of the energy. And even after this, here comes another car in, going to pile into him again. So took 3 real hard licks.
We'll point out that not all of these drivers have spotters up on top of the speedway in radio contact with their drivers. And that most of these drivers in this race do not have a tremendous amount of super speedway experience. And you do see the number 96 up on the roof, up on the sail panel there. And that was in memory of the driver we lost last evening in the qualifying event. Here, many of the cars are carrying that symbol up on the roof in this race today. overlooking, casting a little shade on the backstretch grandstand. A lot of inflatables here at the Speedway, representing various causes and sponsors. 65 will come up on the board this time, and unless they give them one to go, this event may end under the caution flag. 64, make that, 3 laps to go. So if they get cleaned up, there is a possibility of a green checker.
Mike, they're working real hard on the back straightaway, blowing the oil dry off, and if they can get that cleaned up, they'll go with it.
And it'll be a 1-lap shootout. More short track than super speedway skills will come into play there.
I promise you, the guys that are in the garage area waiting on the Winston to start, the Winston Open to start, they want them to go some green flag racing. With that stuff on the track, they'd like to see these guys run a few laps and make sure they clean that area off for them before they start the Winston Open.
So Robbie Faggart, who has led every lap from the pole. As you see now, the effect of the lighting system beginning to play on these cars. As we get a little towards sundown, Dennis Setzer running down on the bottom of the racetrack. And they're still going to blow a little bit more of that speedy dry off here. And see if we can get a 1 to go this time. Following this, the Winston Open, where some of NASCAR's top drivers will attempt to qualify for the All-Star race. The Winston coming up tonight here on NASCAR's country home, the Nashville Network.
Boy, Mike took a lot of oil dry back there, and that's what's really delaying this, getting this thing where they can restart the race.
Safety car, bring them through there one more time. And we'll look for an indication from the starter stand. Pace speed has been slowed a bit. If they can clean it up, we may have a shot to get back under green here. That's what they're trying to do right now. If they can get enough of that speedy dry down and off the track, the man who has led this entire race, Robbie Faggart, and used all of his strategy and skill to do so, will have a 1-lap shootout against Dennis Setzer and the rest of this field. Interesting, Neil. Faggart has been running every one of these caution laps up on the banking. Setzer's been down on the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, it might be just trying to stay out of some of that trash up there. There's so much stuff on the racetrack. I'm trying to avoid having a flat tire just riding around.
Well, the 1 to go sign is on from the flag stand, but the caution flag is not been withdrawn. There's the top 5 after 65 laps.
Mike, they look like they might possibly going to let it turn them loose with 1 to go.
Yep.
And let them make a 1-lap sprint because he indicated 1 lap. It wasn't the white flag. He was indicating 1 lap before green. So if they can get those that equipment off the back straightaway, they might turn them loose for 1 single lap.
Well, to do that, Neil, the light would have to go off in the safety car in the back straightaway. Don't know if they do that. There are 2 laps left. 65 laps are complete. White flag next time by. So sweepers working pretty frantically back there, but this race, which started out so promising and had a couple of big bangs, looks like it may end with a whimper here. And in the garage area, the Winston Open cars are getting ready to roll. And there is Buddy Baker, who would normally be sitting up here with us. And right now he's sitting down there waiting to go racing and tell us all about it. He in the Winston Open, carrying racing's first ever in-car microphone under green. Now, a lot of the TV networks have talked to drivers under the caution flag. Buddy Baker, who won the Winston Open in 1987. Back when Barney Hall and I anchored the NASCAR radio network, MRN. Tim Richmond once started on the pole in a race and wanted to call the first 2 laps under green. And we were not able to get clearance from NASCAR to do that. But since then, the technology has changed a bit, and since this is a non-points race, folks felt the experiment was worth a try, and Buddy is more than happy to give it a shot. So 1 lap to go, and this must be very frustrating for Dennis Setzer. He's had a good car. He has raced his way up, started 3rd, dropped back a bit, climbed his way up through the top 5 to 2nd spot. And there is Dennis, just kind of idling along in that Ford, and the only thing that separates him from victory lane is the pace car and Robbie Faggart, who's done a great job from the pole to hold all challengers at bay. First Tim Bender and then Dennis Setzer.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to end under the caution. There was just no way they could get the track cleared off. They've got the Winston Open coming after this, and they're going to have to work on the track before we can even go with that.
So in the 100-mile record book, Robert Huffman with 3 wins, will be joined at the top of that list by Robbie Faggart, who will pick up his 3rd victory. Dennis Setzer, who in the past has started here on the pole, will pick up his 3rd runner-up finish. So a very familiar song to the end of this one as they come off turn 4 behind the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme pace car, and they'll come down to the checkered flag. And it'll be Robbie Faggart, Dennis Setzer, Freddie Query, Mark Cox, and Peter Gibbons, the front 5. Checkered flag. Anticlimactic ending to a race that certainly had its exciting moments. And that big 6-car pileup on the back straightaway puts a finale to the Winston Sportsman 100 for this evening. We'll be back to meet the winner and begin the pre-race for the Winston Open and the Winston right after we pause for these messages. Winston Open is next year at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. The top 2 drivers finishing this event will transfer into NASCAR's All-Star race. We've just concluded the Winston 100 for the Igloo Sportsman Challenge. Robbie Faggart goes to victory lane over Dennis Setzer, a familiar 1-2 finish here at Charlotte. Dirt tracker Freddie Query is 3rd. Mark Cox carried our in-car camera to 4th spot, and Canadian Peter Gibbons earned a fine 5th. Pope, Ward, Keller, Trenum, and Dawkins were the top 10. And Neil, it's kind of a shame that a division that's shown us such real good racing should have to end this race under caution after a big pileup on the backstretch.
Mike, I kind of hate to see that. I know the fans would like to see the thing go green. You know, it is a good series, and we see the real good competition. It'd be nice to finish it on the green.
Well, let's go to victory lane where it's finished. Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Robbie Faggart, you proved to be a man of your word. You told us at the top of the show you were going to try to lead every lap and take that 3rd victory here at Charlotte Speedway, and you did it. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be here. I'd like to thank Igloo for sponsoring the Sportsman Series. It's a hard day. It's nothing easy. These cars are very equal. We just have to put it out front and hope nobody can get around us.
Well, it didn't look like you had too much trouble. The car seemed to work flawlessly during the whole race.
Yeah, I think it did. I'd like to thank our team manager, Tommy Johnson, our crew chief, Mike Armstrong. They've really done a great job on the car. I'd like to thank Roberts Racing Engines. Everybody worked real well today.
Did you ever at any point think that anybody was going to be able to make a good run at you? It looks like that you were pretty content to let them shoot at you all they could.
I thought Tim Bender there was really saving something. I thought he was just falling in behind me to save something for later, but as it turned out, I believe I could work a little better in 3 and 4 than he could as the race went on.
Well, we got 2 more of these races coming up this week, and wouldn't surprise me to see this guy back here again. Mike?
Well, he knows his way to victory lane, Glenn. Certainly, he has been there before. We're awaiting word on the condition of the drivers involved in that incident on the back straightaway, and we'll update you just as soon as we have word from NASCAR on their condition. We are told, and we see that 1 driver is being transferred to the hospital for treatment, but we'll have to wait to get an update from NASCAR as to who that is. In the meantime, let's go up to a unique spot in all of motor racing, Charlotte Motor Speedway's Speedway Club. T.G. Shepard.
Let's see, who was it here that had the BlackBerry and the key lime here?
Gainfully employed.
Well, as you can see, Mike and Neil, you couldn't make a trip to Charlotte Motor Speedway without coming to the Speedway Club and see the other side of racing. You talk about grandstand and racetrack food, hot dogs and hamburgers. Well, in this particular spot here, it's gourmet dining. Behind me, you've got closed circuit television. You got a TV at almost every area here to call in and out. This is truly the only way, I guess, to live. I don't know where I went wrong.
TG, save me a place. I might just run downstairs real quick in between this race.
It really, I remember when they built this place a few years ago, they asked me to become a member, and I kept waiting to get a free one, and I just never got it. It's a great place here. And as you can see, it's quite festive up here right now, and everybody's getting ready for the big event. Of course, it's just around the corner here now.
Well, you found the good food, so you can bring some back.
You get there?
I'll bet. Well, you see a bit of hazy sunshine off there in the distance, and the lights are up here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as one hot night continues, and we get ready for the running of the Winston Open, where some of NASCAR's top drivers who were not automatically qualified for the Winston will have a chance to race their way into the starting lineup. We'll be back right after these messages.